Good morning, viewers and listeners. We are live, and welcome to the NFL Draft Bible Tailgate Show. I am Lawrence Johnson, your preferred and your number one host here. Of course, we are partnered with Fan Nation, powered by Sports Illustrated. This is what I can tell you, man. I'm here with my esteemed panel, dripping with talent, as we can bring on all the guys here. All right, there we go. We got the full team in effect, as you can see. I got my guy, Lorenz Lineweaver. We call him the twin NFL Draft Bible Senior Scout. Of course, he's in full swing. He tried to trick us and let us and try to tell us he was extra busy when we know what's really going on with you, Lorenz. But he's the busiest man in the business right now. And also, we got my man, Alec Polito, NFL Draft Bible Scouting Coordinator, also burning the candle at both ends. Then, of course, we got my man, Hunter Pitcock, the Wonder Boy, who has all of the insights and little tidbits you probably wouldn't know about different folks. And then also we got my man, Kellen, the quarterback of the crew. Kellen Face Gerenstein in the house as well. We got a lot to talk about with him on his previous game from the week. But this is December 11th, 2021, episode 15 of season 2. So we're ready to get it going. Of course, this is a special week because this is the game. The game that's on is the game that is Army versus Navy, which is the only game that's on. They do this every year, and it's pretty much their day to shine. And it's also a time where a lot of teams are recouping, getting themselves ready for their bowl games. But we got a ton to talk about. Let me go ahead and start it off. How you doing today, Lorenz?
Yeah, I'm doing great. You know, it's not as bad as you said. Just kind of lost track of time and was late for the show, which is why we were delayed for a little bit. So, go tweet at me. I'm at Alec M Polito on Twitter if
Yes.
you're mad for the slight delay of the show. Just kidding. You know, it's fun. We got the
At
Senior
least get
Bowl
some
rosters.
traffic to profits.
Hey, you know what? I missed out on that chance. I'll get it next time. But you know, it's a fun time. We're getting these films in. A lot of guys opting out of bowl games. We're getting ready, doing these final reports. I got a couple banged out, but it's going to be a process here until last year. I was busy until March 1st. That was when I did the last final report, and then it'll be on to 2023, which that's wouldn't want it any other way. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm happy to be here, happy to talk about it. Let's get this rolling.
Yeah, and I'll have a question to ask both you and Alec about the UVA quarterback. Of course, he's looking for evaluations right now, whether he's going to come out or go back. So we'll get into that a little bit later in the show. But let me get to you, man, Mr. Slick Polito. Talk to me. How you doing this week, man?
Dude, I am doing really well. We launched the UConn site on SI, which did really well traffic wise. So I'm glad that there's a ton of UConn fans out there that are really excited to get their team covered. I'm going to watch the women's basketball game here in a little bit and write a little report on it because they are probably the best team at UConn right now. I would say they're dominating there, but I'm definitely excited to talk about some of this college football postseason stuff here. We got the playoff to discuss a little bit, but start talking about these classes and the players in it. We got the two big ones that are probably the most depth in the entire class that we might talk about today. So I'm excited.
Absolutely. Looking forward to that as well. Then my man, Kellen Gerenstein. What's going on, Kellen? What do you want to say in your opening statement?
Oh man, I'm happy to be back on. I wasn't here last week. I know we'll talk about it, but I always enjoy waking up on my Saturday, having a cup of coffee, talking ball. I know it's not a lot to talk about today, but Army Navy, I know that they just run the ball. For me as a quarterback, it's kind of not great, but the uniforms that they wear, they get new uniforms every year, both teams, and I think that's the best part of the game. The helmets Navy wears are always top tier. So everyone go take a look at the past helmets that they've worn because they're amazing.
They're fire, man. All of them. And Army, actually, when they came out with the whole combat look, where the cleats look like boots, and you know what I mean, it was just slick. But I mean, no pun intended, Alec, but it was slick. So we're coming to my man, Mr. Pitcock, Wonder Boy. What's going on, Hunter? What do you got to say in your opening statement today?
My opening statement is honestly like I'm sick and tired of like these top players just ducking bowl games. I don't know about you guys. I'm not a fan of it at all. I want to see the big time players make big time plays in the big games. Period. That's obviously a scouting dream is to see how good are you against top tier competition. I think some situations I can understand. Of course, there's like a carousel of coaches going all these different places, and you don't want to play for your assistants or whatever the case is. But I don't know. The competitor in me just kind of getting sick and tired of players opting out of these games.
I understand. Yeah, you definitely want to see them go mano a mano against the best out there, but they always want to try to protect themselves from getting injury. But I understand. I feel you on some of that, Hunter. But yeah, we're ready to get this show started. Of course, like I said, I am Big Law. My opening statement is pretty much. It's time to really ramp it up here at the NFL Draft Bible, and it is our season now. It's on us to bring you the best information that you'll be looking for. Like I said, we're always here to educate you, entertain you, and we are here right now. Oh, and also, shout out to my guys, like you said, with the launch of the UConn Sports Illustrated website. A lot of things coming from our brand, NFL Draft Bible Sports Illustrated. Rick Saratella, Sam Saratella, the whole crew, just coming up with a whole bunch of different ways to bring you all different types of genres of entertainment. Also, isn't there a CF1 tournament, like a quick CF1 tournament coming up?
So the CF1 is in I think they're in a break period right now just because the kids went back home, the college students, but they're picking it back up on next year. So yeah, we've got CF1 esports, we've got UConn Illustrated at UConn Illustrated on Twitter. It's gained I think like over 800 followers or 700 followers in the last 2 days or something like that. We launched on Thursday.
48 hours. Yep.
Yeah. And it's then, of course, the NFL Draft Bible, which is in its own right phenomenal resource for all things football. So yeah, it's real cool right now. There's a lot of things going.
That's right, guys, and we're ready to continue to bring you this information and to bring you these brands for your entertaining and your pleasure for viewing and listening. So, right along with that, let's jump into the only game we have for today. It is Army versus Navy, 3 p.m. CBS. Army, a 7-point favorite. Typically, up until the last few years, Navy would usually just blow Army out. And I can tell you, I'm from Hampton Roads, which is where you have the most powerful Navy in the world, here in Norfolk, Virginia, and grew up here in this area. So it was Navy, Navy, Navy. And don't get me wrong, we have an Army base here as well, but it was always about the Navy around here, and they're very prideful. This game, the pageantry and everything else that goes on with this game is absolutely unreal. So much pride going on whenever this game happens. So I'm going to start off with you, Hunter. What does this game mean to you whenever you see this game?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the great traditions, of course, in college football. You see, these two schools that have amazing legacies. It's going to be a very interesting game as well. Neither team really throws the ball. A lot of triple options, read options, pitches, wide receiver sweeps. You're going to see, the playbook really expand the running game. And both these teams are always toward the top of the country and running the ball. So that's definitely going to be something to look out for. But like you said, Big Law, Army's kind of dominated this rivalry as of recent. They've actually won 4 out of the last 5 games. And both of these teams are pretty battle tested too. Let's not forget a few months ago, Navy actually barely lost to Cincinnati 27-20. And now this team's in the college football playoffs. So Navy's even, despite being 3-8, they've played some teams really tough. Third toughest schedule in the entire country. But I'm really excited to see this Army rushing attack for sure. Quarterback Christian Anderson has pretty much as much rushing yards as he does passing yards this season. He's at 525 yards on the ground. And then Tyrell Robinson, who is a former football player, but in the UK, soccer player actually. And I saw this highlight right before the show, 87-yard touchdown to the house against UMass. This dude is really, really fast. And obviously probably has great stamina from playing soccer too, so he can keep those wheels going. And they got this big fullback, Jacoby Buckingham, 6'1", 260. I think that's almost bigger than Derrick Henry, for crying out loud. That's a big boy right there. He has 11 touchdowns this year, and it's all in the red zone. So definitely watch out for him to punch one in potentially.
I love it, man. I love the big fullbacks, man. I know that a lot of the game has gone away from the fullbacks, but I love them when I see them. Shout out to Kyle Shanahan in the San Francisco 49ers. They still use those fullbacks in that offense. But yeah, hopefully, he'll get a shot after. I guess it depends on his commitment, to the country. But I'd love to see a good fullback, get an opportunity to play on the next level. Let me come to you, Lorenz. Talk to me, man. What do you feel, and how do you? I guess whenever you watch this game from afar, what does it mean to you in Germany?
Yeah. So first of all, shout out to everyone in the chat room. We got Tom Goody and Craig Smitty. I don't know if I'm
Got the
supposed
hub
to say
camp
that.
down below.
Craig Smith and Tom Goodhines. I know Tom
T.
is
Goody.
getting ready for the.
The futures camp.
I know I'm allowed to say T Goody. I don't know about Craig
T. Goody,
Smitty.
baby.
I hope
That's my man.
He's not mad, but. Absolutely. Second of all, I can't believe Kellen said he's not interested in the run game. When I tuned into their game the other day, he was ground game Gerenstein keeping the football after I finally found the stream, and they were already up like 21 points. So I'm going to get him one of these Quentin Nelson hats that says run the damn ball on it. I'm sure you've all seen it. When I see you guys down in Mobile, I got to find a way to get one of those. But to the serious part of this game, I admire the cultural impact of this game. That it's a standalone game, that it's honoring those that serve the country, and that it's really just this game that all the attention is on, which I think is a great idea and is very fair, and sort of the least you can do, right, to put a bit of spotlight on these young men competing. From an NFL draft standpoint, I do have two players here, one on each team, that are going to be at least in the conversation. Army punter Zach Harding is someone who looks like a future pro punter, whether that's in the NFL. It's not sure. It's probably going to be a free agent. Very tough to get drafted as a punter. Might even go to an alternative league of football, but he might be there, or he is, from an NFL perspective, from a senior perspective, their most talented player. And then Navy linebacker Diego Fago, I think he got a Shrine Bowl invite, might even have gotten, he didn't get a Senior Bowl, might get that down the road. He's another one who's grayed out as a priority free agent. 85 tackles, a sack, a forced fumble, and an interception at 6'2.5", 232. So he's one of these modern day linebackers. He moves around. He does a lot of things for this team. So he is really the big one. Navy linebacker Diego Fago to watch. He's been productive there, I think, starting for 3 years now. From a draft perspective, those are the two guys to look out for that I'm aware of.
Awesome. And I'm coming to you, Alec. What is your how does this make you feel whenever you watch this game and the history and the pageantry of it?
There's so much nostalgia to this game, and it's been going on way past my life, and it's such a culture, like you said, cultural impact. It's fun to watch every year. That being said, I don't have anything on this game. I don't know any of the prospects. I know that one team's 8-3 and the other one's 3-8. So I believe it's Army that's 8-3, but I could be wrong on that. So that being said, I expect Army to win this, but I do want to say a quick little shout out to Mr. Back-to-Back, Mr. MVP, called his shot in 2019, comes back, Kellen Gerenstein, who just won the club football national championship at Ohio State, which it's official. Ohio State is no longer they're a club football school. They're no longer for that team over there. It's a club football school.
Yeah, it is. Appreciate it.
Congratulations. Absolutely.
Yeah, thanks,
man.
fellas. Thank you.
And I'm coming to you, Kellen. What does the game mean for you, man? I know you're not really a fan of all the running, but what does it mean just being watching it every year?
Lorenz is right, though. I mean, I the ground game is a big part of how I play, right? And these two offenses, the way they use their quarterback is probably how I should be feeling. I should be using myself at any point. But with Paul Johnson leaving Georgia Tech, the 3 military academies are the only teams that run that classic flex bone double wing under center option. Now, some teams will still run it out of the pistol look. I think Georgia Southern does it a lot. Tulane used to do it, a couple other teams, but no one really does that traditional have a fullback, 2 wings and line up. But these two, I mean, it's a real throwback. And real quick, I found my favorite helmets from Navy in 2015. Each position group had a different military vehicle on their helmet. So linebackers wore cruisers, defensive backs wore destroyers, wide receivers wore submarines, linemen amphibious assault ships, whatever that means.
Bro, you need to send that in the chat. We need to see those pictures.
Yeah,
gotta see those.
I'll send it. Quarterbacks wore aircraft carriers, running backs wore literal combat ships, and kickers and special teams wore minesweepers. So
holy crap,
that's the 2015 Navy. That's the best uniform combination in the series, in my opinion. So
what a nugget coming from Kellen Garrison. That's beautiful, bro. I can tell you the one that I really love was the light blue helmets that they had with the Blue Angels on their helmets. Yeah. I said, whoa. I said, they're going way out, man. I said, Blue Angels, if you ever check them out, man, they're just the elite of the elite pilots, performance pilots of the naval of the naval brand. So yeah, I definitely love watching those guys whenever they come out there with those uniforms. And what it means to me is being from Hampton Roads in the military town, it gives me a feeling of extreme pride. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love the fact that, wow, look at those helmets. Hold on, look at that. That is amazing. Look at how they did those helmets, man. They are undefeated outside of Oregon. Navy and Army, whenever they put those uniforms on, they're undefeated, man. Mm-hmm. But for me, it's I get a groundswell of pride when we're talking about these teams and about whenever they play their game against each other. And it's almost like, sure, they're going to play against each other. It's almost like a team, but they're a team within a team. So, sure, they're going to play against each other, but then they are our military, man. These young men are, have a commitment to each other on the football field, but when they jump out of it, they are absolutely committed to defending this country. So it's almost like just on both levels, I'm just excited to see these young men perform. And then also when they're done, they're not done with football. They have to go, they want to go and serve this country for our safety and our well-being so we can continue our lifestyle. So and my father, of course, was in the Navy as well, so maybe that's why I kind of feel with pride. It was aviation tech, play basketball and everything, but yeah, I just kind of feel it is just a very special time, and it's just great to see. I just saw on game day, of course, they're at MetLife Stadium, I believe is where they're playing the game, but they just had the commander and the admiral for the Navy and the Army top guys up there with all the awards and all the stuff on their uniforms, and it was just crazy. They both looked at each of their respective branches, and they just both held a football up, and everybody went absolutely nuts. So it's just crazy whenever you see it, man. So but we'll see, how it goes. And of course, usually the president comes to the game as well, and he'll sit on the Navy side or the Army side at in the first half. Then in the second half, he switches sides to the opposite. So and they're playing for the Commander-in-Chief trophy. So that's some of the history and pageantry. I've been to Annapolis before. I haven't been to West Point, but it just fills me with pride just to watch this game go on. So right along with that, let's go ahead and have this open discussion. What's going on, all of our folks in the chat room? What's up, Robin? How you doing? Thank you for tuning in. Of course, like my man Lorenz said, T. Goody in the building, my man Craig Smith in there as well. But this is going to be awesome, guys. So right along with that, let's kind of have open discussion on some college football games, situations, players, NIL, anything you want to talk about, what's pressing on your mind right now. I'm going to go ahead and open it up with you, Lorenz. Right now, what's the most pressing thing on your mind when it comes to college football? Just off the top right now. We're going, I want you to go solo. I want you to freestyle. Just go ahead and give me what you got, man. Don't think about it. Just spit. Bars.
You gonna lay down a beat for me if I'm supposed to freestyle here, or
I'll play a beat for you.
I'm just joking.
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna embarrass
Yeah,
myself.
shame.
Open forum today, baby. Open forum.
Couple of things. I think they kind of tie in together. I mean, the coaching carousel. Hunter just talked about the bowl games. I think a big issue of players opting out of bowl games is that coaches leave literally right after the regular season ends. I think signing day is you guys are gonna. It's before the national championship. Really, it might even be before the playoffs. I think that needs to be moved back, maybe even significantly, to give these coaches that are going to leave at least the time to finish their seasons with. Some of these guys like Lincoln Riley, he's brought in 4, 5, 6 generations of Oklahoma, like years, or not generations, but 5, 6 years of Oklahoma players into that program, and he can't even finish the season with them properly with a bowl game because he's got to go to USC, or I'm going to say he's got to, but he doesn't want to be behind the A-Bowl. He wants to get there as early as possible because they do have recruiting coming up. Their teams. There have been coaches leaving the team, the preparation for the national championship, to go out on the recruiting trail the week before. I know recruiting is important. I know it's key, but I think it would be fair to give these teams and these coaches a bit more leeway there. I don't know how that would be logistically possible with spring ball, but I think you can probably move it back a little bit. You have such a long off season. It doesn't need to be happening in the season. They're still going to be recruiting within the season, no question about it. But I think that's part of what devalues the bowl game. At the end of the day, I think really the main guys are only going to care about these bowl games if there's a trophy to be won, and that trophy not being whatever the Orange Bowl and whatnot, but being the national championship. And that's going to come obviously with the extended playoff format a little bit. But you won't be able to fix bowl games and make everyone care, make everyone play. I understand these players. You're one injury away from losing millions of dollars outside of your own physical health. But I do think something can be done there and something can be improved. Make these coaches stick around for the entire season, at least a new year, and then have this carousel going on a little bit later. But it's fascinating right now which coaches are going to be heading which programs. I thought there was a big old shakeup, really kicked off by the LSU news, USC news within the season, and the ripple effects of that. I thought have been fascinating and still going on with Mario Cristobal leaving for Miami, so on and so forth.
Absolutely. Let me come to you, Kellen. Talk to me. What is on your mind, man? Freestyle off the top.
You know what I think the problem Hunter has is valid from a fan's perspective, and Lorenz is right. You know, guys have to make decisions that are best for their family. But there's a simple fix to the problem we have in college football of the playoff and the committee and guys not playing. And to me, that's having a 12-team playoff. Now, I get it. 12 teams, all 12 teams might not be deserving of a shot at a national championship. But I think it's hard to deny the attractiveness and how good it would be for the sport to have that 5 versus 12, 6 versus 11, that first round of games on campuses, right? I mean, for one, that's revenue for the schools. That's good for college football. Those TVs, everyone's TV will be on the entire 2 days, however long it takes to play those games, right? And then, you go to the next round. Now you're in the bowl games, right? And then I think you would go to the semis, and then you'd go to it just makes more sense to me. And then 1 through 12, all those teams are having their best players play. So you don't get, I don't know if Oregon's top 12, but you don't get Kayvon Thibodeau sitting out. You don't get Kyle Hamilton sitting out. Garrett Wilson's probably going to sit out. Chris Olave might. These guys that are big-time players on big-time teams but aren't playing in the games that really matter. I mean, the Rose Bowl is all fine and dandy. It's very sexy to play in, right? It's the granddaddy of them all. But the game in the end is really just money for your school. Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, these guys don't really have much more to prove, so why would they go and risk their health? But you get that 12-team playoff, you give them a home game, you have them play whoever the next round, Cincy, Alabama, you give them a rematch versus Michigan, right? Who doesn't want to see that? So that's my thing. I do think the playoffs should go to 12, at the very least 8, but I just think 12 makes more sense. you just fix a lot of problems. And the point about the coaches is right too. Then your coaches kind of have to stick around in that case, because first of all, them leaving is weird. There should be a system where, just like with signing day, you're not allowed to do things during a certain period. That's how it should be with coaches too. That's my 2 cents.
Very good strategy on that. Hunter, let me come to you, man. What's on your mind? Top of the head.
Sure. I mean, we're all kind of just building off each other's points here. So I'll talk about the 12-team playoff. I mean, I'm a big college basketball guy. I personally think March Madness is like the best postseason of any sport whatsoever. I mean, you can argue maybe like the World Cup or something like that too, but college basketball, at least in the United States, is just such a big deal. Everyone watches, even if you're not a big basketball guy. Everyone fills out those brackets. Who's to say though that in a 12-team playoff we couldn't see some upsets happen, especially if it's neutral site games? Like, you never know. Like, it's one game, it's not a series. Both teams are going to be playing their behinds off to keep it PG for the folks out there. And I think it could lead to some awesome football. And again, I personally think like playing in bowl games should be a big deal, and people should be taking it more seriously because of the school pride. People come down, like if you're an East Coast team, you're playing in Las Vegas, like, you know, the fans will fly out and see you play, and you can play in front of your family. You're on national television if maybe you're not as big of a team and stuff like that. And there's a lot of school pride that goes into winning bowl games too. I understand there's about 4 or 5, 6 teams, and maybe every single year it's like national championship or bust. But that's not the case for most teams. And so that's why I think bowl games should be taken more seriously. But perhaps if there was a 12-team playoff, we could see, you know, some more exciting college football. And you know, there's rumors that we might see it sooner than you think, but it might have to happen this year or next year if the committee decides to expand.
That'd be great. I'd love to see the committee expand, and I think 8 is probably the sweet spot, especially right off the bat. You know, just to try, because you got a Notre Dame team out there, you got an Ohio State team out there, which I think either of those teams could beat any of the teams. I don't think anybody was solely dominant. I mean, Georgia showed that they are vulnerable the way that Alabama beat them. But let me come to you, Polito, my man. So off the top of the head, off the rip, what's up, man? What's on your mind?
Yeah. Now I love the 12-team playoff idea, because essentially the problem that people are having with the expanding the playoffs is that you're going to have teams like Alabama or Georgia have to play a game that they should very much win. You know, a 1 versus 8, they should be winning that game. But if you have a 12-team playoff, what actually you're having is they don't have to do anything more than what they're doing now. It's still their bye week is that week 1 where you have the 8 teams play, and then you get into that they're playing one more game, but they're playing against teams who have just won a game the week prior. They're not getting that month off. So I think the 12-team playoff makes the most sense. Plus, I think what we could end up seeing is we've seen this like mass exodus from the Big 12 from, you know, into the SEC. What I think a 12-team playoff could do is kind of piggybacking off the March Madness idea. You could start giving automatic bids to a Pac-12 winner. We would have seen Baylor in this year. A Big 12 winner, we would have seen Baylor, and Pac-12 winner, we would have seen Utah, in which I think no one was arguing those teams deserve to be in if we did a 12-team playoff. Maybe your only argument this year was Pitt deserving, but I think that if you put Pitt in there, they've got talent, enough talent, and usually an ACC winner is going to be enough talent where they're a top 12 team in the country. I don't think you're going to see a ton of arguments there getting those teams in, and you can start to see maybe more prospects kind of or recruits stay towards their homes or build up something where they are. Because if you think about it, you go to Baylor at the Big 12, you might be going to the college football playoff 4 years in a row. You know, you might get 4 opportunities to play in that game, and maybe you don't win it your freshman year. Maybe you upset someone your sophomore year. You know, I think that, you know, it allows people to build programs in other conferences. Whereas right now, if you wanna make it to the college football playoff, your best bet is to go to one of these top SEC programs and hope that you run the table and you're in. You know, that we got 2 SEC teams this year. We almost had 2 Big Ten teams, but we got 1 Big Ten team. And I think that you get more, obviously Cincinnati being a group of 5 team, congrats to them. But I think you're going to see more conferences being able to build a competitive nature instead of having that, one team blow it out of the water, or just have a bunch of teams in that like mediocre range. You might have some teams battling at the top.
Speaking of battling at the top, we're getting ready to talk about did they get it right, with the 4 teams that they did select. But before we get into that, let's talk about the Futures Hub football camp coming up in December 15th in Chula Vista, California. Who can explain futures? What does that mean whenever you put that term up there? Shout out to my man T Goody Time Goodhines out there with the Hub football camp.
Yeah, I'm real excited for this one. I'll be out there in Chula Vista, which is right outside San Diego. It's when they say futures, it's really a bunch of like young players. We got a bunch of players who, last couple draft classes haven't been signed anywhere yet, or have been signed but aren't currently signed. And it's just a ton of players that I've seen the roster. There's going to be some interest from NFL teams. There's so many good players just under the radar. They're trying to get their shot back in the league. Ton of players that have a ton of experience on practice squads and been in the NFL, but they're just trying to get back in. It's going to be an interesting one. There's some really good quarterbacks. I'm really happy with the quarterback roster that we've got. One being Zach Edwards from the ELF. He's going to be there with his running mate, Gene Constant. So Lorenz and I got to interview them a couple weeks back, thanks to Pat Wennon, who was their offensive coordinator at the time and a good friend of mine. And they're both going to be there. There's a ton of other talent that's going to be there. A lot of ELF talent, actually. So really excited about this Futures Hub camp.
Thank you for that, man. Yep. Appreciate that, man. That is something that has been, it's on fire, man. Whenever you're talking about Hub Football Academies, Hub Football Camps, they just give everybody and give a lot of the people who deserve it an extra chance to get back into the league to continue their careers. And, we can't have enough of those type of opportunities. And they're actually giving a great a chance for those who really desire to continue their careers. Shout out to Don Yee as well, who actually kind of puts it on for us as well. But what do we got here in the private chat? So I think that everybody in the private chat, if you guys got some questions, go ahead and throw them in. We'd love to answer some of those questions you have. It's a beautiful Saturday. We got one college football game, and we'd love to hear some of your comments and some of your topics you guys want us to speak about. So I'm gonna come to you guys now and ask you, did they get it right? Are these really the top 4 teams in college football? I'm gonna start with you, Hunter. Throw it out there, man. Is this are these good top 4 teams?
I'm actually gonna say yeah. I think they did get the 4 teams right. A lot of people, I think a few weeks ago, if we said Michigan was gonna end up being the number 2 seed in the country, and you can even maybe argue the number 1 team based on how they finished the season, I think people have been like, nah, that's not gonna happen, blah blah blah. But I think they're also the first team to ever not be in the AP 25 to start the season in the preseason and end up making it to college football playoff. And that's probably why Jim Harbaugh won AP Coach of the Year. So shout out to him, shout out to that team. They have a whole lot of heart. When you watch them play, they just play super, super hard. And they care a lot. So you gotta give Michigan credit where it's due. Now, is Jim Harbaugh going to have one of those classic letdown games in the college football playoff? Perhaps. We'll see. It seems like historically he doesn't win the big games, although this year it's been a little bit of a different tune. But I'm very curious to see how the Wolverines play. It's a little different seeing it not Ohio State representing in the college football playoff. I know Kellen's probably not happy about that, but Michigan's definitely a very deserving team. Alabama, let's just not forget last week I said, don't be surprised if Bryce Young tears up this defense, for the record. And he sure as hell did. He was phenomenal. Georgia definitely got exposed a little bit, but nevertheless, it's still a very good football team, the Bulldogs. I think Michigan might be a little bit more of a favorable matchup because while Cade McNamara is a solid quarterback, this is more of a running football team with that 3-headed monster with Donovan Edwards, who's all of a sudden erupting for them, Blake Corum, who can kind of take it to the house at any given moment. And then you also have Hassan Haskins, who's super solid. I think he has 20 touchdowns on the season, which I believe is a school record for Michigan. He's been phenomenal as well. And then Aiden Hutchinson, who got the invites in New York too, which is, I think, a big deal.
Should've
I think
been
he's
Will
very
Anderson.
deserving of it. And
Could've
who
been
knows,
Will
might be gunning to be that top overall pick in the draft because he's going to have those one, potentially two big games where he can show out on a national stage.
And, and speaking of that, you said that, rewind the tape, what you said, came to fruition. I did as well. I said Bryce Young's feet are going to have to make the difference against this Georgia defense. And it absolutely did. Him being mobile, sliding in the pocket, even scrambling some. Scrambled on one of his touchdowns. I said he's going to have to move around, and he absolutely did, and they won. And I think Alabama really showed out. It's almost like when Bill Belichick ran the ball on every play except for 4 plays. He just kind of showed out, why they're the masters of their craft, as coaches, in their, in their job descriptions. I'm coming to you now, Lorenz. Did they get it right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the big the big curious point, so to say, going into it was whether Alabama, if they lose, what happens. And I think a lot of people, me included, I mean, I thought Georgia would win this game. Obviously, Alabama with the massive turnaround. I mean, Nick Saban working his magic, and that coaching staff. Give some credit to the offensive line too. How they turned it around after abysmal outing against Auburn, really blocking the best front seven, which really, let's be honest, I mean, nobody runs the ball on Georgia. That was the same conversation. They didn't really have a run game, but in the passing game, they were almost able to neutralize that front seven, which that's rare to do. I think that's what wound up, including, Stetson Bennett just not being close to the quarterback that Bryce Young is winning that game. I think with that win, knocking off the number one team, it was tough to put anyone else at number one. Alabama, they had that one loss. They didn't look great all season, but if you knock off the number one team and that style with only one loss, you got to put them at number one. Michigan at number two, I think, makes sense. The Big Ten winner. They were dominant in that game. That's going to be a fun matchup. Going to be interesting when we get into the prediction section here against Georgia. Georgia, of course, stays in. They were the number one team throughout most of the season. They lost that game, but at the end of the day, I mean, there weren't any alternatives sitting past Cincinnati at number 4, which I think well deserved. Them getting in second season in a row in the regular season where they go undefeated. They played a close game to Georgia last year. I'm a huge Jim Harbaugh guy. You guys know this, but Luke Fickell should have been the coach of the year if you ask me. What he's been able to do there has been beyond impressive. I don't even know what the adjective is to use there. Getting this team into the playoff has been incredible, and they're for real. I don't expect them to beat Alabama, but they're not a joke. This team, they got NFL talent on all levels of this team, offensively and defensively. And well-deserved for them getting in. I just didn't think any of the teams beyond that really had the case to get in. Oklahoma State maybe had they won, but they didn't. So I think it was very fair. I don't think there's much to discuss with this top 4.
Yep. Same thing with you, Kellen.
Yeah.
Maybe not. You think they got it right?
I think they got it right. Yeah. I mean, that's just they did right. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think they got it right. Michigan, Cincinnati, Georgia, Alabama, the 4 most deserving teams. Simple as that. If Georgia's best quarterback is Stetson Bennett, they're not going to win the national championship. He's just not good enough.
JT Daniels season.
If Kirby is doing this game where he's right, I don't know what he's doing, but if JT Daniels is healthy, he's most likely the best quarterback. Now, I don't know, I'm not, Kirby Smart is a better football coach than I am, but I think a lot of the criticism for him is, could Justin Fields have won you the big game in, what was that, 2018 against Alabama when he was a freshman? Now, Jake Fromm was good. He was a good college quarterback. He was good for Georgia, but I think that the same could be said for Michigan this year with Cade McNamara and JJ McCarthy. I know the guy has experience, but there's someone with more talent on the roster right now. Now I know JT hasn't been healthy, but if he's If he is healthy, he should be the guy for them because they're just not going to beat Alabama. And they might, they could have trouble with Michigan. It's not like Michigan's defense is a slouch. Now, I know Georgia's going to be able to keep their offense off the board, but, I just think they've got to play their best players. And whoever that is, I think Stetson is 11 out of 11 on that offense right now. He's the 11th best player on that offense. But if you put JT in, I think it changes a little bit. Not saying that he's the best. George Pickens is there. Lad McConkey's been playing well. Obviously, Brock Bowers is going to be freaking Gronk, in a couple years. But I think JT should be the guy for them.
My question to you: would you trade your national championship for Ohio State national championship?
No, absolutely not. As much as I love that team, absolutely not. They got to get it done on their own.
Yeah, you got to pay your own way, brother.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I just had to ask you that question. So, right along with that, guys, let's get into some predictions. And I'm gonna come to you, Alec Polito. What is your prediction for the first week of college football playoff?
Yeah, I mean, haven't done my crazy homework into these games, so when we eventually do get to picking these games, my answers could change, but initial reactions to when I saw the 4 teams picked and the matchups is that we're going to see an Alabama-Georgia rematch in the college football championship. Now, I do think that Michigan is a really good team. I'm definitely not. They are one of the top 4 teams in the country, no question about it. They are well deserving of being in there and their ranking. That being said, I don't love the matchups that they have against Georgia. I don't think that they match up all that well, but I think it's going to be a really good game. Alabama, Cincinnati, I think that I'm a little bit upset because I would have loved to see an Alabama Ohio State matchup so we could see CJ Stroud against Bryce Young. But I think that, Cincinnati has so much NFL talent, but they're not going to be able to compete with Alabama through 4 quarters. I think this could be a close game early. I just don't see them being able to hold up against Alabama 3-4 deep at each position, where Cincinnati's got 9-10 guys that are legit, no question about it, NFL guys. But where do you go after that? And that's really the concern. And Luke Fickell, if he can coach up the perfect game, and he might be able to, that's no question about it. He might be able to. They can win this game. They are not a joke of a team. I'd say that if I had to rank it, they're probably the 5th or 6th best team in college football, and that's no joke. I think Ohio State's more talented, but Ohio State didn't get it done in the big game, and they knew that they had to win that game to get in. I think that I think that Cincinnati can put up a game. I just think when all said and done, Nick Saban gets a month to prepare for your team, and you've got 10 guys that are real NFL guys, and then it kind of drops off. I think that it's going to be Alabama, Georgia in the college football playoff championship.
Thank you for that prediction. I think you're onto something with that. Lorenz, talk to me. What's your prediction? Any changes on that?
No, I'm with Alec, and my heart says Cincinnati would be such a great Cinderella story, but my head says what Alec basically said there. You're giving Nick Saban all these 5-star recruits, all that talent, the best quarterback arguably in college football, a month to prepare against Cincinnati. At the end of the day, that's just tough to bet against, right? Mighty Alabama. On the other hand, I love Michigan. I love John Harbaugh, but this is a terrible matchup for this offense because they're a one-dimensional offense really with the run game. I love what they've been able to do with that offensive line. I like how physical they are. They get the occasional easy pass play here or there to not be completely one-dimensional, but this is a front 7 that nobody, including Alabama, including name any offense really for the last couple of years has been able to run on, and that's going to continue. I don't see Michigan putting up 100 rushing yards in this game, which they need 100, 150 on the ground. This is like the old Harbaugh 49er teams. If Frank Gore was rushing for 100, they were winning the game, and I just don't see that happening as much as I like what Michigan is doing. And then I just don't think you have enough firepower at the quarterback position, so you really need your defense to come up with a pick six, of return a fumble for a touchdown, make a lot of big plays and force this Georgia offense into some mistakes. I think it's going to be a bit of a defensive battle. Might be a little tough to watch for some people. I personally love those games, to be honest. But at the end of the day, Michigan, it's just a terrible matchup for them. Really, really badly. I think they would much rather play Alabama from a matchup perspective, because that's a team that's got a great front seven, but is comparatively easier to run on. So, man, I love Michigan, like I said, but I don't think I'm not going to say they don't have great chances, or they don't have a chance at all. But to me, it should be Georgia favored by a good margin in that matchup, just because I think it's so much better for them.
Let me ask you this, Kellen. What do you feel? Are there any changes in this?
No, I think
No?
Bama and Georgia are the two best teams in the country, and I think they're going to play each other for the national championship. And like I said, I really think Georgia's quarterback is going to be the deciding factor. Who it is and how well he plays will be the deciding factor in that football game.
And what about you, Hunter? Same thing, or do you feel a little differently?
I feel differently, honestly.
Uh-oh.
I'm not taking Georgia's cupcake schedule all that serious. They're a really good football team, but the one time they played a great football team, they got smoked, period. And I'm not going to sit here and disagree with the fact that it's not a great matchup on paper for Michigan. But Michigan, I think, has played inspired football. I think they're probably the hottest team in college football right now. And I think that momentum matters, especially now. And I think if it was a national championship, Georgia would just get smoked by Alabama anyway. I think Nick Saban has Kirby Smart's number in that Georgia team. They've been their head for years. And I don't know. I just think this Georgia team ever plays its best football in the biggest moments historically, at least as of the last 5 or 6 years. And you can't say Michigan has either, but I think this is a really good football team. I'm really excited to see this three-headed monster they have in the backfield there. All three of those running backs playing phenomenal. And it just seems that guys like Aiden Hutchinson, David Ojabo off the edge, every single big game they play, they show up. And I think they're going to, whether it's Stetson Bennett or JT Daniels, I don't feel confident in either of those guys. To say that they can't, get a forced fumble and get positive field position, or that Michigan can't get a pick six or a whole lot of sacks in that game is ridiculous. They've been winning football games because of their defense. They run the ball, and then they every so often get a big play in the passing game. If they keep doing that, that formula has seemed to succeed for them, and I think they'll beat Georgia. And then I think Alabama does beat Cincinnati. Giving Nick Saban all those weeks to prepare, I highly doubt that they'll have a letdown game against the Bearcats. Although, like Lorenz said, Luke Fickell and that team has been a phenomenal team and more than deserving of being in the college football playoff. And then I think the national championship game does get pretty interesting. Again, we'll have a official pregame show previewing these games, but I guess this is a little bit of a sneak peek.
Absolutely. It's the age-old story in college football, a North team against a South team, a warm weather team. Can the warm weather team or the cold weather team beat the Southern team? It'll be interesting to see, if it's going to still play out, usually the way it does play out, where a warm weather team winds up winning based on where they play. So, it's exciting. I think that we're going to have a great time watching a lot of these games. As far as giving our previews on edge rushers and cornerbacks, do you guys want to save that for our next show?
We could save it.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, because next show we got a pretty open.
We got bowl games to talk about as well.
Yeah, and then we got we'll be previewing these games that we just talked about the week after the week after is Christmas. The week after that, we'll be previewing these games, and then I think we should do. We haven't talked about this off air, but I think we should do maybe Monday, because I think that's the national championship games on a Monday. Maybe we preview it that day as well. Just give them a super in-depth view of that national championship game. But we'll talk about that when the time gets there. But I think we could save the edge rusher and cornerback discussion for next week.
Oh, and also we might be able to do that. Typically, probably in January when we actually start. After all the bowl games, because we're about to next week. I believe we're going to have our first bowl game, and we'll be able to preview that. We'll get our helmet stickers back out, and we'll be able to get back on our rhythm. Where we're previewing games. So everybody out there, just stick with us. Stay tuned. We're just ramping up. College football season's coming to an end. This is when we actually get it going and ramp up and get our predictions and get our analysis going on all of the players that are draft eligible. In closing, let me start with you, Lorenz. What do you got to say in closing?
Yeah, pretty much what I've been on about, I guess. I mean, this is this is the time to get excited about the NFL draft to sort of transition over. I know a lot of teams, NFL fans, NFL teams have already kind of lost hope. They're looking ahead for the draft. We got underclassmen declaring, really kicked off last week. It's really ramping up. The Senior Bowl roster is almost done. I think they're going to add some underclassmen as well that are going to that are gonna graduate, and then we'll have the other All-Star games filling up as well, which is going to be exciting. It's really a quick transition always from the end of the college football season into draft season until we get to these long months, to me, of March and April, which there's the combine's over, everything's over. It's just a lot of talking and reshuffling and overthinking. But this right now, to me, I think is the most fun time, because we got the tape in the books. We can finish the film grades. We're going to get all the other stuff on top. And to me, film is the most important thing evaluating these prospects. It all starts and ends with the film. The other stuff is interesting. The other stuff is nice. But at the end of the day, it's the film. It's what you put on video. It's what you do on the football field that matters most. And so this is the most fun part of the draft season, almost, outside of obviously the draft itself when it happens.
That's right, man. Ready to ramp up, wheels up. Let's go. Hunter, what do you got to say in closing?
I feel like this show has turned to like the Georgia Bulldogs fan pregame show at this point. I feel like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just being a bit of a pessimist. Maybe I'm overreacting to what we saw against Alabama, but I don't know. I'm not as confident in this team, especially after that SEC championship game as the rest of the panel might be right now.
Well, Alabama may have put a blueprint out, so you may have something to say about that. My man, Face Garenstein, national champion, quarterback of the crew. What do you got to say in closing?
Yeah, as a club football player, I always have respect for guys that play lower levels of football. And with that said, the D3 football semifinals are on today, 11 o'clock is the first game, which is North Central versus Mount Union. Mount Union, I think, has 16 Division III national championships, by far is the most. North Central won the 2019 national championship and is on some insane win streak right now. North Central has the Cooper Cup of Division III football. Andrew Kaminsky had 33 touchdowns and 2,000 receiving yards in 2019. This year he's been a little bit banged up, but he's just a monster. I don't know how the NFL views him. I'm sure he'll get a tryout somewhere. And then North Central versus Mount Union's matchup in 2019 was a 59-52 thriller. So the rematch is on today at 11 o'clock Central Time. So I'll probably be tuning into that. Me and Lorenz might have something coming later today too, but D3 football is pretty damn good at the top of it, at the very least. And the semis will be Mount Union versus North Central will definitely be a damn good matchup. And the other one is a rubber match. I think Mary Hardin-Baylor versus Whitewater is they split the last two meetings in the playoffs. So this one's the rubber match.
Speaking of Whitewater, one of our guys, the Belly, got drafted out of Whitewater. I want to say third round to the Denver Broncos. He's a starting guard, and he's an animal. Quentin Miners. There we go. Quentin Miners. Shout out, man. You get some studs out there, but shout out to our crew for actually I interviewed him, and for our crew to bring him up and and give him his props, and he showed out and is doing a great job right now. So I'm coming to you, Alec, for your closing shots. You got the last statement of the day.
Yeah, well, I appreciate Kellen bringing up Mountain Union, because we've got a kid coming to the Hub Futures Camp from Mountain Union that broke Pierre Garçon's records a couple years back. So big deal there. Excited for the Hub Camp, December 15th. And if you're a free agent or preferred or an NFL player or trying to get into the NFL, make sure you're checking out what the Hub's doing, because they'll be doing a ton of camps next year as well. Try and get involved in that. I got it wrong. It's UConn SI at UConn SI on Twitter. So go follow that. Check out all the stuff we've got going on at SI.com. /NFL/draft. Ton of fun stuff. And if you want to see more content of our voices or our faces, Prospect Profits is we're going to be going now starting on Mondays, and the podcast comes out on Thursdays, and then of course on the Tailgate Show, and then Inside the Film Room with Kellen and Lorenz. I think you guys Wednesdays, right? Am I wrong?
We switch it up. We
switch
keep
it up.
on
All right,
toes.
keep people on their toes.
We got a film study, Kenny Pickett at noon on our Twitch channel. I'll tweet it out. Go check it out if anybody wants to know more about that. Perceived now, I don't know, projected first quarterback off the board at this point, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you, we also coming up here, we have to talk about the coaching carousel as well.
Yes.
And where a lot of these coaches, were hired, and some of the practices were questionable, as well. So we'll talk about where all some of these new coaches are, because there was a huge movement. There was a lot of movement as always, but there were some big names that went around the coaching carousel, and maybe we'll get into that next week. But before we get into that, guys, we got to thank all of our viewers and listeners. We love you guys for tuning in. We can't do it without you. And as we continue on and keep this train going, we're here to educate you and entertain you, and we thank you for being here. This has been the NFL Draft Bible Tailgate Show. I am Big Law. This is my panel. Look for us next week. We will be back. Thank you. Go watch some football.